Thank you for the introduction, Zoo. So, a very warm welcome to today's LEAF Surgery. I'm Claire Mike. I'm Director of Technical and Business Development here at LEAF. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Dan Mitchell. Hi, Dan. Thank you for supporting me today. Dan will be helping drive today's surgery and we'll be fielding your questions later on. Little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We are recording today's session. And also if you have any questions for today's guests, please do pop them into the chat function. We really do encourage questions. I know Lucy and Nick will be delighted to answer those for you. So yeah, do put those in the chat function and we'll get to those towards the end of today's surgery. So today I am so delighted to welcome Nick and Lucy Tyler from Kingsplay Farming Company and LEAF's newest demonstration farm. Nick is third generation in his family to farm at Kingsplay Farming, and Lucy is a qualified vet and sits on our LEAF Marque Technical Advisory Committee as well. And together they run Kingsplay, which is a dairy, beef and arable farm in very beautiful Wiltshire. Lucy and Nick are committed to farming for the future, looking at how they reduce inputs, improve soil health, habitat connectivity, but I won't carry on because there'll be more of that to come and I don't want to spoil it for Nick and Lucy. But today we're going to hear a little bit more about the journey that they've taken initially on some LEAF projects and all the way to becoming LEAF Marque certified and a LEAF demonstration farm a couple of weeks ago. Before we start, I just want to say in recognition of what Nick and Lucy have already achieved, they were awarded Farmers Weekly Mixed Farmer of the Year in 2024 and the Cream Awards Climate Positive Agriculture winners as well. So yeah, I think it's just a testament to the wonderful work and commitment that Lucy and Nick have for looking at how they farm more in a more environmental way, more sustainably. And so without any further ado, I'm going to introduce today's guests. And what I'd love, Lucy and Nick, if you don't mind, is to tell us a little bit about yourselves, about the farm business you've inherited and your journey so far would be great. Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Claire. That was a very kind introduction. You can probably hear my voice is not brilliant. So Nick, for once, is going to do the majority of the talking. And he's very excited about this prospect. I'm going to hand over to him on that part.
Oh, no, thank you, Claire. Thank you for your kind words. Yeah, so as you mentioned, we're third generation farmers here in Headington. Grandfather started 90 years ago with about 34 cows. And over the years, I worked with my father for the last, well, he passed away 8 years ago, and I worked with him for 25 years, building the business on really. And we're up to just over 2,000 acres, 450 to 500 milking cows, supplying a retail aligned contract. And over the last few years, we've built a Wagyu cross business as well. Currently about 375 F1 cross Wagyus on the farm, which we're taking up to finish. We developed a brand and a logo, and are trying our hardest to market them all directly with that brand and logo in local butchers, farm shops, and developing markets as we go. And then on top of that, we've got the arable business, which is really the purpose now has changed, I guess, to firstly supply as much food as we can to all the animals. With the dairy, the young stock and the beef, we run between 11 and 1,200 bovines at any one time. Also supplying the straw, but also invaluably, it gives us the best opportunity to utilise the manure and improve soil health across those arable acres. And then also on top of that, we've got the stewardship and the SFI schemes that we're operating, which are now an important part of the business, and they're a big part of the turnover. They're invaluable to the rotation and to the livestock too. So yeah, the farm's changed quite a bit the last 7 or 8 years, and certainly since our involvement with LEAF, it's changed even more. So it's progress.
Thank you. So just before we get on to projects, LEAF demonstration farm, you're LEAF Marque certified, and you took a very bold decision to do that in quite a tight time frame and without necessarily being required to do it. So I'd love to hear a bit more about your story your desire to become LEAF Marque certified. And how do you see that LEAF Marque might support your business or help help others recognise what you're doing within your business?
Yeah, you give it a go.
Yeah, so you're quite Claire. Sorry, you'll have to excuse a very badly behaved dog in the background who's going to play up like a toddler. Yeah, so we discovered LEAF probably, I think it was December 2021. We were looking for an assurance scheme that was sort of really centered on sustainability. And then we did the LSFR, LEAF Sustainable Farming Review, in March 22 and set ourselves this absolutely crazy target of being LEAF Marque certified by the end of the year, which we did achieve on the 19th of December, which was quite a task. But I think once we'd had that initial contact with LEAF, we got to meet some of the LEAF people, and you guys are all so enthusiastic and passionate about what you do, and we just couldn't help but be enthused by you. So we joined, we did the nature-based solutions as well. We did the Resilient and Ready program, which we're still on. And I think all of that's been of huge benefit to our business. Training, the opportunity to meet mentors who can help us. Environmentally, obviously embracing the integrated farm management approach has made a real difference to all of our landscape and nature conservation enhancement. And I think as well, like you were saying this morning, weren't you, the benefits for financially with HSBC?
Well, it's a combination of the benefits. I think we moved banks last year. First time ever trading as a business, we decided to challenge the banking, and HSBC at the time launched a scheme which assisted with lower arrangement fees and interest rates, which benefited us financially from the business move. But also, I mentioned stewardship. We've been in countryside stewardship for 25 years since it first started going. But it's like yesterday, we were up on the hills and there was curlew up there was linnets up there's grey partridge paired up. And it hasn't happened overnight. It's been a progression over the last 25 years. But the last few years, when we've been seriously thinking about where we put our SFI plots, where we put our wild bird cover, where we strategize it with the help of Simon Smart, who's an ecologist who helps us with all this stuff, we can really start seeing the benefits that it's making on the landscape and the biodiversity up on the hills.
And I think there's so much emphasis now on health and well-being, and it makes you feel good when you go up there and you walk along. It makes you happy.
It certainly does. I can vouch for that. It's beautiful views up there. Thank you. That's really great insight, and I think it's such a great story because obviously LEAF Marque is being used more by supply chains, and that's great. And understanding how supply chains support their farmers and growers is brilliant. But also, hearing from farm businesses that see value even before that is just wonderful to hear. So thank you for that. So let's come on to a couple of those projects then, or one in particular. Let's talk about the Corteva Resilient and Ready program. What have been your key learnings so far? I'll say so far because you're still in the final year of that. What are your key learnings? And it'd be great to hear as well about the different support systems that have been within that, whether that might be the cohort before you or whether that might be others, the advisors that you've worked with. But yeah, it'd be great to get some insight into your experience of that project.
I think for me, probably the greatest light bulb moment of the project was meeting Bryony and Archie's father, Robert, because they're arable farmers. They don't have any livestock. And he sort of came in and said hello. And then he said, I wish I had your muck. And I sort of thought, is this man crazy? But it really hit home how we needed to appreciate our manure and slurry. And I think driving our nitrogen use down, or artificial nitrogen use down, that has had a massive impact. So that's definitely one of my key learning moments.
And I think the other thing that inspired me as well was the visit that was organised to Andy Bason's at Newhouse and also up at Yattington, and seeing what other farmers are doing and how they're achieving it. And it makes it, when you can, as a farmer, when you can see somebody doing it, it inspires you. When you hear about it on a webinar or you read about it, it's a bit different. But when you see it in person, and that's what I love about the LEAF Demonstration Farm Network, is it gives that opportunity for, we're just ordinary farmers. We're not anything special. We're not doing anything different. We're family farmers, and if we can do some of these things, loads of people can. And if we can hopefully inspire some people who come and visit us over the next few years, then that's what it's all about, the same way as we've been inspired. And that's all through the Resilient and Ready. We wouldn't have had those opportunities to meet those people, spend the time talking to them and learning from them. So the network's been fantastic.
That's so good to hear. And it's wonderful to see that progression of the baton being passed to yourselves, and then who might you pass that on to as well. It's just really exciting. And yeah, I think the Demonstration Farm Network is so important, not just to LEAF, it's so important to the industry actually, and other networks that deliver similar, that peer-to-peer learning, that chance to go and visit other farms and be inspired by them is really important. So within Resilient and Ready, you've been working hard to look at reducing nitrogen. What are your kind of key takeaways? What have you learned so far? Or is there still some learning to be done, do you think?
I think there's always learning to be done, isn't there? You're never really finished learning. I think probably the smart use of our organic farming, our manure and slurry, definitely. We were able to work with Ben at Germinal, weren't we? Looking at our grassland management and putting herbal lays in with legumes into our arable rotations, clover into our grass lays, the trial with Blue N through Corteva. We've had so many opportunities to try different things. It's been brilliant.
Corteva have been fantastic. Their network of professionals and agronomists, and Ryan and Sally and Caroline especially, have been so supportive. And so the Blue End trials we've done as on-farm trials, and we're also looking at Instinct at the moment. We're actually applying that tomorrow to some maize ground.
Maize and beans.
Maize and beans, yeah. We're trying some runner beans going up some maize as well. And all these things are coming through the backup from Corteva and the friends we've made there. So it's been vast. And I think you mentioned grassland. 5 years ago, we just grew grass, but now we grow 5 different types of grass mixes, all fit for the purpose that we're trying to achieve with the stock that we're putting over those fields, whether it be high quality, high protein silage for the milking cows, whether it be mixed species for young stock or beef, and obviously the GS6 and 13 we got up on the downland that we're preserving and looking after under the Natural England regime. So yeah, we manage it very differently, and we're very fortunate being the mixed farm that we don't have a worry with break crops. So many arable farms are challenged with what break they can use. We have such a selection with maize beans, herb mixed species, lays, grasses, and we're looking at growing beans next year as a protein feed for the cows, again, to try and reduce footprint and try and reduce rate meal. So yeah, lots of opportunities with a mixed farm.
Oh yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think one of the takeaways that the first cohort of farmers from Resilient and Ready shared with us was actually one of the things that really they got most from the project was that confidence to go and try something new, or the confidence to go and look at doing things differently. And sometimes it's just a little bit of hand holding and a bit of encouragement is all it takes to go and do something that you know instinctively is probably right for your farm, right? But yeah, having somebody just saying, well, just try it, gives you that kind of permission almost to go and do it. So it's great that you seem to be experiencing similar through the project as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, and also through the Demonstration Farm Network, because again we saw the living mulch, didn't we, at Yettington, and that's something we're trying to establish this coming summer. And so when you see it in the network farms, it gives you the confidence to give it a go.
Brilliant, perfect. So as part of the project as well, or not necessarily as part of the project, but during the project, you've also been turning your attention to a little bit of an agroforestry project as well within the farm. So would you mind sharing a little bit about how that came about and where you are with it?
Of course. So I was lucky to visit Andy. I did the LEAF Integrated Farm Management course that you ran with Basis. Went to see Andy's farm and saw his agroforestry project there. and came back and thought, this is really good. We need to try this. And then they organised for you to visit Jake, didn't they?
Yeah, we went up to Jake Freeston's and had a look there as well. And initially, when Lucy said about it, I thought, trees and fields, how's that going to work? How's that going to be practical to farm? I didn't get it. Then I saw Jake's and I got it, and I was inspired. And you then led it from there, didn't you?
Yeah, and we had the opportunity, LEAF Resilient Ready kindly sorted out for Ed Colbert to work with us on a design, and he basically came up with this incredible design which showcased all sorts of different options of agroforestry along a footpath. And we just knew when we saw it that we had to make it happen. We were very, very lucky that the Great Western Community Forest were keen to support us, fully funded the project. The trees went in with just under, I think we're 2 short of 1,600 trees, which with the 2 elms on the demonstration launch day now makes 1,600, which I'm good. Nice round number. They went in January, and we've got sort of all these different options. So we've got some silver pasture browse, we've got some silver arable apples, we've got adapted roundels based on what the Woodland Trust do. And then we're actually looking at a potential stage 2 of the project, trying to incorporate any remaining aspects of agroforestry we haven't included so far. So it is really exciting.
And I would really encourage anybody interested in seeing agroforestry to book in with Lucy and Nick for a visit, because what they've managed to achieve with that support and all the different mini pilots that are happening within that agroforestry project, you're trying out so many different things, is just so inspiring. So yeah, definitely if you're interested in agroforestry, I really would encourage a visit to Kingsplay. Thank you.
I think there was a question on there, Claire, just flashed up about us using the trees for forage. So yes, we're using them as browse species. So we've got willow, alder, hazel, hawthorn, as well as sort of interspersed apples. So there's lots of different options, and we're also using them, 10 to 15 years time, they're going to provide us with essential shade, because if you look at the changing climate, we're going to need it. So decisions we're making now, hopefully future-proofing the business as far as climate change goes.
And the other thing we put in the forestry was 40 walnut trees against the prevailing wind going over the young stock buildings, which hopefully the properties of the walnut trees reduce the flies on the young stock. So hopefully that will help the fly input on the or the fly burden on the calves and the young stock.
Incredible. And you've got some very local variety apple trees as well, if I remember rightly, as well, that was pleasing the local community too.
So we have the Bath. They were actually, when Nick's granddad started the business in 1934, he lived at Church Farmhouse, and there's a Beauty of Bath apple tree in the garden. And I think you can remember, your mum remembers eating apples off it. So when we were looking, we've got an area that's quite a natural area that we've put the roundels in, and that's where we featured the Beauty of Bath to try and keep in with the natural environment.
Yeah, we put some crab apples in the roundels as well to pollinate the Beauty of Bath, and yeah, we got a lovely selection of apple trees there. So an abundance of apples in the future.
Yeah, and you'll be making crab apple jelly as your next project, then, Nick, will you?
Possibly.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, I'd love to talk about one of the other really dominant features within your farm as well, your natural habitat for species and the biodiversity plans that you have. I'd love to hear a bit more about your plans for biodiversity on the farm, and yeah, how do you consider that that's worthwhile for your business?
I think it's massively worthwhile for the business. Aside from the obvious, pollinators, natural predators, I think as well it's the community engagement side of the business too. And we're very, very lucky that we have the support of the village here. We just launched our Open Farm Sunday event. I think it was Monday, and by Wednesday we had 75 out of 120 tickets had gone, and we'd only put it on the village Facebook page. And I think, doing things like that, enhancing nature and doing things that the village can appreciate, it helps your community engagement as well.
I think the last few years, if I look back on the village Facebook page, we've had loads of positive comments about the agroforestry, about the orchids, about the downland. and you find members of the public or members of the community will put on there today. Just a heads up, there's some heifers out on the downs at Kingsplay, and they support you and work with you. They're great. We haven't, you know, in the past it used to be complaints about mud on the road or some cow mooing, but not anymore. It's a community that's really strong.
That's a wonderful example of how, again, you know, LEAF can support farmers and growers to open up for Open Farm Sunday as well. Great opportunity for a plug there. Thank you, guys. So if anybody's interested in hosting Open Farm Sunday, do reach out to us. We can support you with all sorts of things, resources, etc. But also, as Nick and Lucy have so eloquently outlined there, we can also help you with a ticketing service. So if you want to limit the numbers that come onto your farm, we can help you with that too. So thank you so much for that opportunity to plug Open Farm Sunday.
The other thing I would just add to that, Claire, is don't be afraid. Don't feel that you have to have 1,000 people open your doors and have 1,000 people on Open Farm Sunday. The first year we did it, we had 50. Last year we had 120. We're doing the same this year. We do an open farm fortnight because it lets us spread the visits over the 2 weeks, so we can reach more people, but we don't have that kind of stress and worry of so many people in one place. But I think whatever you do to reach out, even if it's only 5 people, do it, because it will make a difference.
And even with the 120 Lucy mentioned, we did it in 2 groups of 60, with Lucy, myself, and Simon Smart running a little pilot group within each group. So there's only 1 to 20, and that way everybody chats and everybody talks, and it's you know, there's not the nervousness or whatever. It's a proper discussion rather than us lecturing, and it's a much better feel.
I think there's no right or wrong way to do it.
No, there isn't. It works for us.
You do what works for what you want to achieve and what you want to do. And I think that's the most important message, is if you're worried about doing it, just have 5 people over. Next year have 10, then have 20, and well, you know, you might have 1,000.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that wisdom and that insight, because actually, you know, one of the barriers to hosting Open Farm Sunday is that fear of, oh gosh, do I have enough stories to tell? Can I manage enough car parking? Things like that. So thank you. I know that will have been really useful for the audience to hear. What made you decide to become a LEAF demonstration farm yourselves?
Well, I think partly to keep the link that we formed with LEAF. We really love working with you guys. And like I said earlier about the enthusiasm of the whole team. So that played a major part. And I think as well, like you alluded to earlier, that the fact that we wanted to sort of show people and lead by example, but also let them know that we are very normal, and if we can do it, so can they do it. And so that was our drive, really.
And I think we've learned so much the last 2 or 3 years since we've been involved with LEAF. I'm sure there's a lot more we can learn and a lot more knowledge we can share with other farmers, especially within I can't wait till we have the get together with all the demonstration farms, because I think the knowledge pool there and the sharing that we can do there is almost better than having consultants on farm, because you're speaking to the people that have done it and tried it. That's what I love.
And there's such a huge role for that peer-to-peer learning, isn't there? You're right. You know, we could stand in a pulpit and preach integrated farm management, and advisors can do the same. But actually having your peer group, having those other trusted farmers around you saying, look, I gave this a try and it's brilliant. Or I always think it's as important to learn what didn't work as well as what did work too. So I think that you know, that and we have such great camaraderie and such a great relationship across all of the LEAF demonstration farmers as well. So yeah, if anybody was ever interested in becoming a LEAF demonstration farmer, do let yourself be known to us, because we're always looking to expand our network of brilliant farms. So I'm going to ask you, maybe this is a slightly philosophical question, but what do you want to achieve by being either a LEAF demonstration farm or part of the wider LEAF family, LEAF network? What is it for you what will good look like for you in terms of, yes, that's why we did that?
Oh, that's a hard question, Claire. I think it's the enthusiasm. When on the launch event, I think we had 80 odd people on that day, and the conversations that were going on in the room, the mix of people, and there wasn't a huge number of farmers. There was a lot of trade there from memory, and the knowledge exchange again from those people, and the enthusiasm. That's what brought it home to me at the end of the event. Apart from being exhausted, my head was buzzing with the different ideas, the excitement, the enthusiasm, and that's what drives it for me. And again, it's much the same experience with Open Farm Sunday. You do it and you think, oh, a bit nervous. At the end of it, you think, wow, that was fantastic. And I think that's what it motivates you. It's, you know, farming can be a little bit mundane if you're not careful and you're doing the same thing day in, day out. When you have something like this, it gives you a level of excitement and enthusiasm.
Yeah, and yeah, I absolutely. It's such a great opportunity for you know, to be able to welcome other people onto your farm, particularly when they're not necessarily that you know that informed on the farming industry as well. So you know, I think having that, creating those opportunities. And creating those opportunities for it to eat your Wagyu burgers and products as well. What, by the way, where can you buy those products from? Are you selling them locally in farm shops? And
yeah, so at the moment, Cobb's Farm Shops, they've got 5 shops across the south of England. They stock it. A local butcher in Corsham stocking it, and we're developing the network at the moment as we've got more animals coming through. So if anyone on the call knows of any local butchers or farm shops that may be interested, I'll do a quick plug. Yeah, we've got plenty of Wagyu burgers and steaks going forward. So yeah, we're looking. We got an opportunity to put it through one of the leading supermarkets, but it would be marketed through them without our name and logo on it. But we really want to keep the brand, and we're proud of what we're doing. So we want to try and keep it there if we can. So,
and Good Game Charcuterie as well. So
yeah,
we've got a link to Good Game Charcuterie. They make Brazala and Nadura. So that's all on their website.
I can highly recommend that too. I think we've got a slab of that in our office fridge at the moment. So yeah. Brilliant. Okay. I'd love to ask one final question then. So you are clearly a couple and a farming family, in fact. For the launch, just to paint the picture for everybody, Nick and Lucy's 2 sons were there too, and they weren't, you know, shying away, or they were properly involved in digging holes and being part of the whole family presentation for us. So yeah, huge kudos to your children. But you're clearly a family that likes to take on projects. That seems to drive you and give you your energy for farming. So do you have anything, you know, what would you like to do next? Do you know what that is yet? Do you know what, do you know what's on your agenda?
Well, we've got, well, all being well, we've got robots going in to milk the cows. Yeah, so they're going in by the end of July for a switch over date, end of July. So that's going to be a pretty major project. With not many months to do it in. And I noticed someone earlier asked about our water management plan, and I think that flashed up. So one of the drivers behind that was you trying to be more efficient on energy and water with the robots. That was one of our sort of actions of trying to reduce our water usage.
Definitely. I think the robot project is really exciting. I built the dairy in 2003 as a greenfield site at the time with a big rotary and blood washing based on an American style system. But we've evolved and changed over the years. And instead of 3 times a day housed, we're twice a day grazed, a bit more extensive, lower yields. But the idea of the robots, to me, as a dairy farmer, just excites me from the cow health and welfare point of view, from the extra line times, the resting times, being able to feed to yield in a way that you can with the robots, and all the benefits that it does, as Lucy was mentioning, to the reduced power requirement and water usage. I think that will be a big change and certainly a help on our carbon footprint as well.
And future proofing for the next generation as well. I think, you know, we're trying to attract generations that are very tech savvy. They're keen on tech, and so it's just trying to think ahead as to what will attract people into the industry. And hopefully through our school visits we can then show the students that there's a lot more to farming than milking a cow and driving a tractor, and that there's a lot of, you know, science, technology, engineering and maths involved.
That's so inspiring. Thank you. You do love to set yourself a tight time frame as well, don't you? So
I think to build an extension on the building and rewire it, replumb it, and put 7 robots in 4 months is going to be a challenge.
If anyone can do it, it's you guys. That has been wonderful. Look, I'm not going to take any more of your time, because I know the audience has got some questions. So I'm going to pass over to Dan. But I just want to thank you. Thank you for sharing so generously, and yeah, your experiences, your wisdom, and your infectious enthusiasm for, you know, wanting to do more and do better. So sincerely, thank you for that. Dan, can I hand over to you for questions from the audience, please?
Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Lucy and Nick. We've got one. Lucy, you've been plucking them out as we've been going. So I wondered if you could maybe expand if there's anything more on water management, and then we've got another couple of questions after that.
Yeah, so water management, this is probably the one section that is in our currently working on. We're looking at ways to use rainwater, which we've, at the dairy unit, we've really struggled because the way the unit's designed, the rainwater would end up at the wrong end of the building to where we want it, and then we're having to start running pumps and things. But that's something that I'm still keen to try and do. And I think we're looking at potentially using it for the sprayer, aren't we?
Well, the sprayer uses well water at the moment. We have a well which was built back in the actual well was constructed back in the 20s with an old steel pipe going up to a reservoir on the hill that gravities back, and all the young stock and beef utilise that water. The dairy has a borehole, but we tried another borehole last year, which was unsuccessful. So we still have a requirement on mains, but say the move to robots will reduce that requirement of mains. And yeah, we're still looking at ways to mitigate mains altogether, which would be the ideal one day. Just use it for the parlour wash, nothing else would be the ideal.
I think, you know, team education plays a big part in this, and the whole point of LEAF Marque being a whole team approach. Because, you know, it's no good us saying like we need to try and reduce our water usage. We've got to get the team on board. So, you know, things like dripping hose pipes or people using, you know, trying to use the appropriate washer, use a pressure washer when you need a pressure washer, use a volume washer when you use a volume washer. Just sensible use of water is really, we found that you've got to get the team on board to make these things work.
Definitely fantastic. And that actually moves us quite neatly into the next question is, do you have any involvement with the LEAF education team?
Yeah, so we've worked with Joe Hatton at LEAF Education. In fact, we had LEAF Education out. Was it last week?
That's the whole team of them out the other day.
They came out to do a bit of a walk of the agroforestry project. I'm CVAS trained, which was done through LEAF Education, and they are a fantastic team. And if there's anyone who's thinking of doing any school visits who maybe hasn't got the confidence themselves to start doing it, reach out to LEAF Education. They will help you. They'll give you some amazing resources. And once you've done one or two, it really isn't that terrifying anymore.
Fantastic, thank you. We've just had another really good one from Rachel drop in. Are there any species that you would love to see on your farm but you haven't spotted yet? And if so, do you plan any changes to encourage them?
I think on the wildlife side, barn owls is the one that I love, and we got barn owl boxes in all the buildings, certainly up on the hill, and we got kestrels nesting in 2 of them. We did have a couple of barn owls about over the winter or early spring. We saw them early in the morning, but they tend to come and go. But I'd love to get a nesting pair of barn owls up there. That would be really cool.
I think I'm keen on the tree sparrows. So Simon identified we sit between 2 other farming businesses, and there's a tree sparrow nesting point on one of the farms, and there's a previous breeding ground on the other farm. And at the moment, we're trying to encourage them back to the previous breeding ground. So for me, it would be to see those tree sparrows come across our land and then back to their previous breeding ground, because then you'd feel like from a landscape scale, you'd feel like you've done something really special there.
And to help do that, when we designed the stewardship and the SFI agreements, we've left an unharvested headland, which is half a mile long, running between those 2 points to try and encourage the birds down. This is with Simon's advice. We got AB8 and AB9 down at the bottom end to try and encourage them on through the network. So working with somebody who's an expert really helps us, because we don't know the true lifestyle of a tree sparrow, but Simon does, and he can help us, encourage them to where we want to achieve.
And I think as well, we're part of the Pewsey Downs Farmers Cluster Group. And I think that makes a big difference, because you need to know what's going on farms around you to be able to try and support what they're trying to achieve. because nature don't just look and go, oh, that's the end of their farm, we're going to stop here. You have to work with your neighbours as well.
Spot on, thank you. I think we've just got another one dropped in from Sally. If you could offer one piece of advice to farmers sustainability journey, what would it be?
Oh,
Tough one.
I'd say just don't overthink it. Just go for it and take a small step. Don't feel like you've got to be perfect on day one.
definitely.
Just small steps, and you will get there. And LEAF Marque, it's all about continuous improvement.
And the other thing I would say, you don't have to have an AOMB or triple SI or downland to be doing it. You can have an intensive dairy farm, but just manage your hedges slightly differently. Put some field corners in, and you don't have to do big steps. Little steps will still encourage you, and you'll see the benefit.
And it will make you feel really good.
Definitely does.
That's, yeah, definitely important, isn't it? We've got another one here from Bob. Do you slaughter on or off farm, and how and where do you process your meat?
That's a good question. No, we don't slaughter on farm. So we've got a selection. Luckily, we're quite fortunate. We have quite a few local abattoirs. Small abattoirs, and to the stage that I can drive them there in our box ourselves, book a time slot so they're not waiting in the lairage, and it's quick and efficient, and they do a really good job. So we're fortunate that we've still got that selection of abattoirs locally, because I'm conscious a lot of places don't, and that was one of the things that put us off the other opportunity. Going to one of the bigger ones, you could have longer journeys on the trucks, which we don't want to do.
We want our animals to have as good an end as they do a life. That's really important to us.
Fantastic, thank you. I think that's all the questions from our side. So I'll hand over back to Claire to wrap up.
Thank you. And what a wonderful note to end on, in terms of, I think the other thing that, Nick and Lucy epitomise is the care for their animals, and, the high concern and standards for animal welfare. And obviously, Lucy being a vet, you quite clearly care, but you go above and beyond. And so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing today. It's been absolutely wonderful to hear from you. I really do encourage anybody that would like to go and see Kingsplay Farm, just please do so. You will come away so inspired. So yeah, thank you so much. Our next leaf surgery is on Friday the 13th of June. Unlucky for some, hopefully not for us on that day. And that actually will be the last leaf surgery before our normal summer break. So yeah, please do join us for that. More details to follow. So that just remains for me to say again, Nick and Lucy, thank you so much from the bottom of LEAF, on behalf of all of LEAF, from the bottom of our hearts. You do so much with us. You do so much for us. You inspire us. And yeah, it's been such an absolute pleasure getting to know you and getting to know your farm and your family. And yeah, just learning more from how you learn as well. So thank you for being so generous to the industry in that respect. So yeah,
it's honestly been a pleasure for us, Claire. And thank you to LEAF and Corteva for all the opportunities we've been given. Definitely. We're very, very grateful for them.
And if anybody listening is thinking of applying to Resilient and Ready, if another cohort comes along, I'd really encourage them to look at it and look at the opportunities within LEAF.
Or any of the other LEAF projects available.
Yeah,
they're a great opportunity to get involved.
Oh, thank you for that. And yes, little spoiler alert. Yes, we will be recruiting in the coming months for cohort 3 for Resilient and Ready. So if anybody's interested, do look out for that. Brilliant. Well, I just want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend when it comes. Lucy, I hope you feel better soon. And thank you for ploughing on through that. Yeah, thank you all for the audience for joining us today. And yeah, we'll see you again at the next LEAF surgery. Goodbye, everybody.